Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today we'll explore some fascinating topics from medieval England, ranging from the reigns of the three Edwards to the Black Death. I'm Melina and I'm here with Andres.
Hello everyone, let's dive into our topics. Melina, why don't you start us off with the three Edwards?
Sure, the three Edwards, the first, the second, and the third, were pivotal in English history. Starting with Edward I, known as Longshanks due to his height, he reigned from 1272 to 1307. Edward I was a formidable military leader, most famous for his campaigns in Wales and Scotland. He not only conquered Wales, but also built a series of castles, such as Carnarvon and Halleck, which were both defensive structures and symbols of English power.
Those castles still stand today, showcasing the architectural prowess of the time.
Edward I
But
attempted to bring
what was
Scotland
his
under
approach
English
to
control,
Scotland?
famously fighting against William Wallace. Although initially successful, his efforts eventually faced significant resistance, culminating in the declaration of Arbroath, asserting Scottish independence. Moving on to his son, Edward II, his reign from 1307 to 1327 was fraught with internal strife. Unlike his father, Edward II struggled to maintain control over his nobles and was eventually deposed by his wife Isabella and her lover Roger Mortimer.
That must have been a dramatic turn of events. How did Edward II's downfall influence the monarchy?
His deposition showcased the growing power of the nobility and the limits of the monarchical authority. His son, Edward III, took the throne in 1327 and reigned until 1377. Edward III is perhaps best known for his role in the Hundred Years' War against France, which we'll discuss later. Under his rule, England saw a significant military success and resurgence in royal power.
Edward III also founded the Order of the Garter, which remains one of the highest orders of chivalry in England. Let's move on to the rise of Parliament. The establishment of the Magna Carta in 1215 was a significant milestone. It limited the king's powers, ensuring that he could not levy or collect taxes without the consent of his royal council, which laid the groundwork for what would become Parliament.
That's right. The Magna Carta was initially meant to address grievances between King John and the barons, but it had a lasting impact on English legal system. Can you talk about how Parliament evolved during the reigns of the Edwards?
During Edward I's reign, the model Parliament of 1295 was established, which included commoners alongside the lords and clergy. This inclusion was revolutionary and set the precedent for future parliament structures. Under Edward III, Parliament's power continued to grow, especially concerning taxation and legislation.
It's interesting how these developments laid the foundations for a constitutional monarchy. The balance of power between the monarchy and the parliament continued to evolve over the centuries.
The English longbowmen played a crucial role in some of the early battles, didn't they?
Yes, indeed. Battles like Crecy in 1346 and Agincourt in 1415 were significant English victories, largely due to the effectiveness of the longbow. Edward III, and later Henry V, leveraged this advantage to great effect. However, the war also saw the rise of French heroes like Joan of Arc, who played a key role in lifting the siege of Orleans and reversing the course of the war.
The war ultimately ended in a French victory, but it had lasting impacts on both nations. Can you talk about those impacts?
Absolutely. The war contributed to the decline of feudalism, the rise of national identities, and significant military innovations. It also marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and set the stage for the Wars of the Roses in England.
Richard II, who reigned from 1377 to 1399, became king at a very young age. His reign was marked by significant challenges, including the Peasants' Revolt of 1381.
Richard's autocratic style and his reliance on a small circle of favorites alienated many of his nobles. How did his deposition come about?
Richard's failure to manage the nobility and the country's finances led to his downfall. In 1399, Henry Bolingbroke, Richard's cousin, deposed him and took the throne as Henry IV. This marked the crucial shift in the balance of power between the monarchy and the nobility.
Richard's deposition was indeed a turning point, as it ended the direct line of Plantagenet kings and ushered in the Lancastrian dynasty. The Black Death, a devastating pandemic, reached England in 1348 and had a profound impact, killing an estimated of one-third of the population.
The scale of mortality must have been unimaginable. What were some of the social and economic consequences?
Labor shortages led to higher wages for workers and a decline in the traditional feudal system. This shift in economic power contributed to social mobility and was a factor in subsequent uprisings like the Peasants' Revolt. It also had lasting effects on European art, culture, and religious practices.
The Peasant Revolt of 1381 was a major uprising against economic hardship and political oppression. It was triggered by the imposition of the poll tax and the demand for better wages and conditions.
The revolt, led by figures like Walt Tyler and John Ball, was a significant expression of discontent among lower classes. Despite its suppression, the revolt forced the government to reconsider its policies. What were some of the immediate outcomes?
While the revolt was ultimately unsuccessful in its demands, it did lead to a halt in the collection of the poll tax and a reevaluation of labor laws. The fear it instilled in the ruling class also had a lasting impact on how the government engaged with its citizens.
Lastly, the religious problem in medieval England involved disputes between the monarchy and the church over authority and influence.
These conflicts, such as those between Henry II and Thomas Becket, were crucial. They highlighted the tensions between secular and ecclesiastical powers.
Indeed, and they set the stage for later religious reforms, including the Reformation and establishment of the Church of England under Henry VIII.
That wraps up our overview of some key events and figures in medieval England. Melina, any final thoughts?
It's clear how these events shaped the future of England. Thanks for joining us on this historical journey.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll explore more fascinating topics. Until next time,
Goodbye.
goodbye.